Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's Agents in Action. Today, we're going over LLMs, Agents in Action, what you can build with SmythOS. I'm Amber Graner, and I'm head of community here, and DevRel here at SmythOS. And our presenter today is usually my co-host, but today he's presenting as Alaa-eddine Kaddouri. He's our VP of Engineering here at SmythOS. So what we're going to go through, we're going to talk about how to integrate any open or commercial LLM into SmythOS Studio, combine reasoning with real-time data and APIs and custom logic, and we're going to talk a little bit about how to contribute, share, and deploy agent templates through Smyth Forged. Not necessarily total LLM, but we do want to mention it in case you want to build your own agent and contribute it to our Smyth Forged area. Think of it like Product Hunt, but inside the Smyth Forged ecosystem. And I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over to Alaa-eddine, and we'll see where he's gotten with whether he's going to live demo something, or we're going to talk about we're going to use the SaaS today. So let's see where Alaa-edine's at, and we'll get started from there.
Yeah, thank you, Amber. Yeah, so we will do a presentation about like quick presentation about the LLMs, the SaaS Docker. Unfortunately, there was a feature that I wanted to demo today, but we are still having an open issue on it. I will show you how to use it, but we can do another demo once we have the issue fixed. So I will start sharing my screen, and I will do the presentation. So here we go. Okay. 1 second. Do you see my screen?
Sure do.
Okay, great.
And if you all have questions as he's presenting, please either raise your hand or drop it in the chat, because Alaa-eddine will be able to see that as well.
Yeah, so today I would try to cover a few things. So how to configure LLMs in your local instance if you install SmythOS locally using Docker, how to configure LLMs in your SaaS. It's pretty similar, but there are some concepts that you need to understand, especially for local models. What is the deployment lifecycle of agents in SmythOS, and then I will show a few examples of how to take advantage of LLMs in SmythOS and how SmythOS makes it very easy to build very powerful agents without using the complexity of what we call prompt engineering. So in order to get started, by the way, if you did not watch our previous webinars where we explain how to get started with your Docker image, you can go to our main repo, SmythOS, github.com/SmythOS. And here you go to Smyth Studio. And in the Smyth Studio README, there are steps here to pull the repo and run it through Docker. So this will run a local instance of SmythOS on your machine. This instance is running on my computer here. And when you run for the first time, you will have this empty space where you can start creating agents. But before you can use any LLM models, you need to go to the Vault page. And in the Vault page, you have your AI models. These are the classic OpenAI, Anthropic, and so forth. And for each one, you need to set up your API keys. So for example, for this one, if I want it to work, I need to set up my key. And once you have the key entered here, the agent and components that use LLMs will show you the list of available models. So this is for own AI models. We have also custom models. So I will just delete few of them here. I was testing few things. Custom models are either external models that are not supported here, but they use the OpenAI standard or Ollama standard, or these are pure local models running on your computer. So how does this work? When you add a new custom model, you need to provide a name. right? For your model, this is a friendly name. Let's say I have on my computer, I'm using LM Studio to run models locally. And let's say I'm running Google Gemma 3. So I will call this Gemma 3N. This is my friendly name. And then here you will need to use to enter the information of your model. So this is the model ID. This is the identifier that your local server provides you. So for me, it's Google Gemma 3N E4B. In the URL, this can be a local URL if you are running locally, or it can be a remote URL. For example, if you are hosting your model on a cloud, or you are using a cloud provider that exposes LLM models through a standard. The standards that we accept are OpenAI or Ollama. So Ollama is usually used locally, but you can also host it on the cloud if you want. So for LM Studio uses the OpenAI standard. So I select here OpenAI. And then here in the context window, this will be used by SmythOS to evaluate if your context window fits in the model's context or not. So SmythOS cannot know automatically what is your context window size. So you need to copy this value from your local running model. This is a configuration that you set up on your computer or on your cloud, and you need to bring it here. Otherwise, you might have some inconsistencies, especially when you chat with your model. You might lose context or something. So just to make SmythOS works properly, you need to report the exact context size, and same for output tokens. So what is the maximum output length that your model is capable of? And then we have this fallback model. Well, this fallback model allows you to choose a fallback if your custom model does not work. So, and this is very useful. Since this is a custom model, it might be working locally on your computer. You might build agents that use it. So what happens if your local server stops? Well, SmythOS will detect that your local model is not running and will use a fallback. And we recommend that the fallback would be something that, for example, always works, like GPT-5 or like Anthropic or something running on the cloud. The last thing here is to define if your model supports function calling or not. Here again, SmythOS cannot guess. It depends on the capabilities of your custom model. So you need to inform SmythOS if you can use functions calling with that model or not. Once you configure all of that, you create your model, it will appear here, and it becomes available to your agents. So let's say I created or I want to create a new agent here. I will drop a GenAI LLM component. I will cover this component in a few minutes. And then here, I need to select the model that runs my component. Here I see my Gemma 3N that I just configured. And from there, I can use it to run my components. So just keep in mind, what is a custom LLM? It's either an LLM that runs locally or on a cloud, but not through the official providers like OpenAI, Anthropic, and so forth. It needs to support a standard, which is either the OpenAI standard or Ollama standard. And you need to configure the settings like context window, output tokens, function calling or not, and the fallback model. So this is for Docker image, so that once you install it, you get started. I highly recommend that you have at least one of these configured before you start playing with these custom models. As I said earlier, we have an open issue with these custom models. We have some problems reported. We are working on it, and we will be issuing an update very soon. Now, I will continue now on the SaaS side. I will open the SaaS version of SmythOS. This is running on the cloud, app.smythos.com. And this same as local version, you can differentiate them by comparing the features available here. You see, so the local version have you only have home and vault, and in my SaaS I have more options here. So in the SaaS, if I go to the vault, I also have custom models. I also configure the same model here before the webinar, and I can also set up my own AI models. Additionally, when you create a free account on the SaaS, SmythOS provides you with free credits for some models, and when you subscribe, you also have more free credits for each model. Now, as you can see, I'm talking here about custom models that can run on the cloud or locally. So if I go and configure this here with a local IP address, right? This is a local IP address. Of course, on the SaaS, this model won't run. It will always run the fallback model. And why is that? Because we allow you to configure a custom local model on the SaaS, create an agent with it, so that you can create your agent and export it to your Docker instance. Or if you are a developer, you can also use SmythOS SDK and run your exported agents. So this is why we have the same configuration in the SaaS and in Docker. The only difference is that in Docker, we will try to run the local model first, and if it doesn't work, we run the fallback. In the SaaS, we never try to run the local model. It will always be the fallback. Unless, of course, unless you use here a cloud version, let's say, I think that there are providers like Together AI, it's called together.ai, and they provide some open AI models. So if you use something like this, we will detect it and we will use it. So that's for LLM setup. And I think this is important, especially if you are trying to run it on your own Docker instance, because otherwise, if you have no model configured, you can't create any agent. So now, assuming you configured your LLMs and you want to build an agent, well, just like the local instance, you click Create Agent. And here, I will not cover Agent Weaver in this session. I will go to Components, and I will create my agent manually. So here you have a bunch of components, right? And in this session, I will cover two components that entirely relies on LLMs. I will cover the Gen AI LLM and the classifier. So Gen AI LLM is basically a component that allows you to call an LLM model. So for simplicity's sake, I will use GPT-4o mini because it's fast. And here you, when you drop your component, you have by default an input and attachment. This is a way to tell you that you can send an input, and you can also attach image URLs or image objects that the agent can or the component can describe. For now, I don't need to do image or OCR, so I will just delete the attachment. And these inputs can be also renamed. So for my case, let's say I want this component to generate an article for me. So let's rename this input to topic, right? And then I will go to the prompt and will say, write an article about. And here you see when I renamed this topic, this input to topic, this blue variable here was renamed, and it's also topic. So I will just click on it, and it is converted to this annotation, right? This means that anything that you will send as an input will replace this template variable, right? So for example, if I say here soccer, it will translate this to write an article about soccer. And this makes my my component dynamic. So we can give it a first try. Let's say soccer. So the component will generate an article, and then I will show you some more advanced usages of this component. It's taking a while because it's generating a full article, I guess. So here we got a response. And now I see an article, right? So we have an article with paragraphs and so forth. Now, let's say I want to get the structure of my article. Usually what you will do with other tools, or if you are doing prompt engineering, is that you will go to the prompt, right? And you will start saying things like, generate the article in this structure, write a title here, paragraphs here, and so forth. With SmythOS, you don't need to do all of that. You just tell what you want, and then you go to the outputs. Let's say I want to capture the title separately. So I will just create an output called title, and then another output called content, and another output, let's say, called keywords, right? Now I will run the exact same agent with the same inputs. Here it's still soccer. I will run it again, and you will see that this time, instead of generating a raw article, SmythOS will automatically detect that my component has a title, a component, and keywords, and he populated them. You see here, I have my title, I have my content, right? And I have my keywords. And now the response that he returned is a structured JSON. Title, content, keywords, right? And these are the ones that are mapped here. And we can go do much more advanced stuff. Like, let's say here, I will go to this content output, I edit it, and in the description, I can say something like, use HTML formatting, right? And again, I can run the same query. And this time, SmythOS will figure out that this content is HTML and will generate it as an HTML content. All of this without changing the main prompt. So you see here, now I get HTML formatting for my article, right? So again, the prompt did not change. It's still the same, right? And the only thing that I do is playing with these outputs. And we can go, like, we can imagine many other things, like, I don't know, like table of content and so forth. You can imagine many things like with that. Just so you know that, like, it's a very powerful feature, right? And it allows you to, with a single component, to do a lot of things. So once you create your component, in order to make it work with SmythOS, SmythOS agents need to use what we call agent skills. And for this, you need to drag drop a component called agent skill here. And the skill need to at least have a name. So the name will ideally describe the role of that skill. So let's say, for example, article writer, right? And in the instructions, these are the instructions to the agent, how to use this skill or for what to use this skill. I will say, use this skill if the user asks you to write an article. Okay. Now my agent is connected to this skill. And in order to connect my skill to my component, I will add inputs. And the input will be topic. In the description, I would say the topic to write article. article about. Now I will connect my topic to this Gen AI LLM component. So every time a user asks this agent to write an article about the topic, it will go to here and then go to here, and this will generate the article, and then the article will be returned. Now, the last thing that I need to do is go to the agent and give the agent a friendly name, like, I don't know, like article assistant. And I can also have like a behavior described here. So I will say, you are a friendly assistant who help me write SEO articles. And I need to select a model. Here I will use GPT-4o, for example. Okay, and my agent is ready. So this is a very simple agent with a single skill, but we can have multiple skills to have multiple behaviors for the agent. In order to test your agent, you can go here on test, and by default, it opens the chatbot test. So the chatbot, you can chat with your agent and ask questions, and the agent will use the skills or will use its own knowledge. This agent is running GPT-4o LLM, so it already have some knowledge that it can use from there. So let's say I want to write an article here. Let's again write a short, just to get a fast response. Write a short article about Sakura tree. So you see it's calling a skill. The component is generating. You see how, like, you see live what's happening in the agents. Now we can go further. We can do more. So not only you see what's happening live, but you can also, I will refresh this chat window, right? And I will turn on debug. And now I will ask the same question. Write a short article about Sakura tree. I will run it again. And now you will see something very interesting. Okay, the skill is being called. You see here, it's stuck in skill call. This shows me that the agent is waiting here, and this component is active but did not execute yet. This is because I turned on debugging, and I can go and run my agent step by step and see what's going on. So the agent called this skill, and I know I can inspect what was passed to this topic. So it passed Sakura tree, which is exactly what I asked about. And then this input goes here, and I can run this specific component. And only when this component is run, the skill will unlock and the agent continue execution. In this case, it's a very simple agent, so it does, okay, yeah, there are some formatting problems, right? But yeah, we can inspect what was generated here and why there was this formatting problem. We can probably fix it with some prompting, but you get the idea. So here, it's very simple agent, but an agent usually is much more complex than that. There are multiple steps going on, multiple components, and so forth. And this is very handy feature to debug your agent and understand what's happening inside. It's like you are creating your chatbot, but you can know what's happening inside the chatbot in real time, right? And what's good with this is that once you are happy with an agent, you can first deploy it as a chatbot in your website, but you can also deploy it as an LLM. And this is covered here. So as an LLM, it uses the OpenAI standard, right? And which means that you can run it with OpenAI SDK. This is the official OpenAI SDK. You just need to provide a custom URL, and the model will be this model that we give you here. So here my agent is not deployed, so I have an @dev model. But when I will deploy it, you will see in a moment, you will see here @prod model. And when you copy this code and run it on your computer, it will call your agent, but your agent will run as if you are calling OpenAI LLM, right? Just like a GPT-4 or whatever. So this is a drop-in replacement of any code that you have where you use OpenAI. But the good thing is that you can create custom skills for this LLM. So you can, for example, imagine a GPT-4o agent like this one. This is a GPT-4o, but augmented with custom skills. You can add any skill you could imagine. Or you can implement a mixture of experts. A mixture of experts basically is an agent that detects the topic that user asks about and then call a sub agent or a sub LLM that is better at this topic. So for example, if it's a coding topic, we will redirect the call to Anthropic. If it's a conversational, we will redirect it to GPT-4o and so forth. So back to the LLM. You can of course deploy it on many other formats. So for example, this API format is exposing your agent skills without the agent card. It only exposes your agent skills as API calls, so you can call them with using these endpoints and so forth. I will cover the classifier and then I will talk about the deployment. So classifier component is another kind of LLM component. So here again, I will use maybe something fast, GPT-4, GPT. I don't have GPT access to it. Yeah, GPT-4o. So the classifier is a component that can classify an input into categories. For example, let's say I want to detect the sentiment. Let's call it sentiment, right? Sentiment classifier. So I want to detect if the input text is positive or negative. Let's be simple. Positive, right? And negative, right? I will turn on the debug again to test this single component. And in the input, I will say, I'm happy. So here the agent will trigger this positive. You see positive is true, negative is empty. The reason for that is this. If I have a following component that, let's say, positive process, I will not run a real process and just for testing. So positive process goes here and negative process goes here. And I will now say I'm sad. Okay. So you see that positive did not trigger, negative is true, and it triggers the next component. So just like this, you can classify inputs into multiple categories. It doesn't work with only two. You can have as many categories as you want, and you can have branching in your agents very easily. Another use case of classifier is this. Let's say, again, I will use GPT-4o. Let's say this time I want to capture some information from an input. So let's say email, just like this, email, phone number, first name, last name. Okay. Now, if I want to capture information here, I need to slightly change the prompt. Here, the prompt says, classify the input content to one of the categories, set the selected category to true and the others to empty value. Here, I will just change this. I will say something like capture the relevant text of matching categories because we can have multiples, and set the others to empty value. It's important to tell SmythOS to set irrelevant categories to empty value and not to false, because false will still trigger your next component, but will send false to it, will send false value to it. So we want it to be empty, so it does not trigger the following component. And now I will say in my test, again, I turn on the debug and I click run with debug. And here I would say, hello, my name is Smith, and my email is hello@smythos.com. We'll run it. Let's see. So I have the email address captured here, no phone number, first name did not detected. Okay, last name was not detected too. So okay, that's a case where we need probably to tweak the prompts a little bit. Okay, let's see how we can do.
We have a question from those who are someone watching on the YouTube stream. It says, do you have a sandbox for agents who can act alone and try things out? Is it possible to set a time for agents to work at certain hours?
Oh, yeah, this is very interesting question. So this is, well, we have today what we call tasks that you can schedule in your, you can schedule your agent for certain tasks and trigger certain skills, right? But we are completely revamping this. We will implement triggers that will work from the designer as components. So basically, a trigger will be something that it will look like a component here, not attached to the agent. And this component can trigger one or multiple skills when an event happens. One of the triggers will be a timer, where you set a timer and you say, like, run this agent every 5 minutes, every hour, every day, and so forth. Today, you can already do it, but it's not very robust. And we had this request, and we are working on it. It will likely be released by the end of this quarter. I hope this answers the question. If not, feel free to ask in YouTube. I'm sorry, I can't see the questions live. So yeah, if there are any questions, I will cover them. So yeah, this is about the classifier and the Gen AI LLM. These are the main LLM components. There are others, like there is this image generator. So this takes a prompt and generates an image, or the Gen AI LLM can also take an image here. It takes an attachment, right? And the attachment can be either a URL or an output from image gen, or an output from another image generator that you call, for example, using the API call component. This API call component allows you to call any external API if you want. So if you redirect the output here and it's a file, you can use it as an attachment. Also, something that maybe I did not cover properly here. So there were a default input that I renamed here to topic, right? But I can add other inputs. For example, if I want to be more precise, I can have like title, right? And I don't know, like key ideas, right? And with this, I can remove the topic, for example. And now I can change the prompt and say something like write an article using this title. And I would say the article should cover the following key ideas. And here I include the ideas. And now I change the prompts and the behavior of my article. Of course, I need to rebind these title and key ideas to a skill or to inputs and so forth. But the inputs are flexible, just like the outputs, and you can use them in your prompt. One thing we wanted to avoid in SmythOS are these very long prompts that are hard to maintain when you need to say exactly like generate the output in this format, and you give a personality to your LLM and so forth. It makes the LLM very complex to maintain. So all this part is covered behind the scenes for you by SmythOS. Of course, you can override it. You can have your own complex prompt with prompt engineering if you are good at prompt engineering. But we want everyone to use SmythOS. You don't need to be an expert in prompt engineering to make good, interesting things. So this covers the Gen AI LLM, the classifier. As I said, image generator is pretty simple. It's similar to Gen AI, except it generates an image in the output. It can also take an attachment, because you can, when you are generating an image with a model, you can tell, use this image as a source, or I don't know, modify this image, and the prompt can have like you can use it just like as a prompt. You see here, I'm redirecting my input prompt to the image prompt, but it can be also something custom, like it can also be topic, and I want to enforce what I can do, like generate, I don't know, let's say generate a portrait image about. So here I'm enforcing part of a prompt, and I'm letting the user define the other part. So you see the flexibility here with these variables and inputs. It can allow you to do very advanced stuff. Now, one
Alaa-eddine,
thing yep.
we had a question as you're showing what we can work with. One of our participants, Bruno Jean, asked, is it possible to work with a database?
Not with classic. Well, with the database, it depends. Not with classic databases, but if you want to use like Airtable, for example, we have integrations for Airtable. You see here Airtable. I think we also have integration for AI table. Yeah. And you also have, if the database is exposed through an API, you can use the API call components, right? And you can configure it with the proper information to use your database. We can cover the API call components in another webinar. It's a very advanced component that can do many things. It can use OAuth authentication if your API uses OAuth. It can use custom headers and so forth. But basically, if your database is exposed to the web via an API, you can certainly use it. Now, we do not connect directly to databases like MySQL or others for obvious security reasons. And I think you will also not expose your connections publicly. But through an API, it's totally possible. The other thing is, if you want to use vector databases, which are a very special kind of databases, more for RAG and for chunking, retrieval, and so forth. We have special RAG components here. So we have the reg search, RAG remember, and RAG forget. These are the 3 operations possible with RAG, and they work with. Today we support Pinecone as a vector database, but we are working to have multiple vector databases supported, including like Milvus, Chroma, Weaviate, and so forth. Okay, so I hope this covers the question. I want to cover a very important topic, which is the deployment and the life cycles. So when you are working with an agent, this agent here that you see in your visual builder is considered a development version of your agent. So it is live when you open your builder and when you test it from the builder. Now, let's say you want to deploy your agent as a chatbot on your website. So you need to go to deploy, right? And set your version and some release notes if you want to have information history about your release and so forth. You can have a custom subdomain for your agent, but if you don't, you can use the one provided by SmythOS. And then you hit deploy. Once you hit deploy, you have multiple options here to use your agent. You can use it as a chatbot, as an LLM, as I covered earlier. You can just integrate it as a form preview, as an API, as an MCP, and even as a voice agent. So what a deployed agent means. Let's say you are using your agent as an LLM. Okay, so I will switch to prod version here. So you see that this @prod means that you are running the prod LLM of your agents. Now, let's say I go here and I make some changes, like I create a new skill. This is for my sentiment analyzer. I will just use some arbitrary information input, and they will clean up the other stuff from my agent. We also have a handy prettify option. You can click it and you see it organizes your agent automatically. So now I have my agent, I deployed it, right? And I added some features, right? My deployed version will not see these features. These are in development version. Why is that? It's because we are following a life cycle that is very similar to software development or like to corporate enterprises and so forth. So your development version should not go live until you are happy with it, until you debug it, you make sure you test it, you make sure it's working. You can test it using the agent chat or using the dev version of your LLM. Once you are happy with your version, then you can go and deploy, and at that time the changes will be reflected to your production. Okay, so now I will deploy, let's say, the new version 1.1, which has these 2 skills. I deploy it. Now it becomes available to my customers or to my SaaS or to my software and so forth. And I can see the versions history here in the deployment. So you see now I have 2 versions, number 1.0 and 1.1. If you ever make a mistake and you want to revert to an old version so you can re-edit it and deploy a new version of it, you can restore an old version, right? So this was my an organized agent, or you can restore the latest version again. So you can edit and go from here. So we are trying to make sure that not only you can build agent, but you also manage the whole life cycle, just like you will do with a software, but with a visual builder, a debugger that works similarly to the debuggers that you are used to with your software. By the way, a debugger, let me refresh the page to show you a last feature of the debugger. So the debugger here, when you run it, yeah, we can run it with the chat, or we can just run debug session here. You also have this inspect button, and this inspect will show some interesting logs as well. So let's say the topic, again, I will use the same one. So you see, while my components are running, I can see some logs information here, right? And it's a very detailed log. I can also see, I will let it run so we can see some interesting information. So you see here, you have the full log of what's going on, and you have the network that tells you how much time every component takes. The source is the structure of your agent. This is like the source code of your agent. It's a JSON structure of everything that you have inside the agent. And you also have a quick access to component-specific log when a component runs, like here, for example. So you can consider this visual builder as the IDE of agents, right? And the deployment is just like when you build a code and you ship it to production. So this is the analogy here. Now, if you are a developer, as I said earlier, you can also export your agent with a right click and export agent. It will export a .smith agent, and then you can use our SDK. I will go back to SmythOS here. In our repo, you can see the Smyth runtime environment. It comes with an SDK, and the SDK documentation is covered here. You have a getting started guide here. So this SDK allows you to either create agents with code or import a Smyth agent and run it on your computer or on your servers. So one of the examples here is how to run a Smyth agent. So in the first, here. So number 2, agents Smyth file. And here you can see how to load a local agent. Here I have an agent called the crypto info agent. I don't know if you can see it. See, so this is an exported agent from my visual builder that I'm running with the SDK. And you can see that running an exported agent with the SDK only takes a few lines. So this is also a different way of deploying your agent. Let's say you don't want to handle your agent's production in the cloud or in with this SmythOS install. You want to have some specific controls with code and so forth. You can use the SDK to do that. You can also use the SDK to augment your agent skills. You can navigate in the examples and see what other features the SDK provides that are not necessarily available in the visual builder, because the SDK is much more advanced. Yeah, this is also another way where you can export your agent, augment it, and then ship it. The SDK allows you to build the agent as a Node.js app, so a .js. We also provide templates to convert it to a terminal executable for macOS, Windows, and Linux. And you can also convert your agent into a desktop app. This uses Electron with Smyth SDK, and you will have an up and running Electron app that you can distribute as well. So these are all the different things, or all the different ways of how to build and distribute your agent. Of course, we cannot go one by one and show all the details. You can go navigate and discover. Don't hesitate if you have any difficulty or questions to ask in our Discord and also on our GitHub repo. If you discover issues, don't hesitate to open them either in the SDK repo or the Studio repo. We will be happy to help you solve them. And it will also help everyone in the community if they encounter the same errors. So that's it for my presentation. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you, Alaa-eddine. And if I can share the screen now. if you don't mind.
Yep, I'm stopping my screen.
If there's a couple questions from anyone, we'll take those. But in the meantime, I also want to remind everybody, as Alaa-eddine had mentioned, we take a look at our GitHub repo. If you like what you see, you're enjoying our open source offerings, please start our repo. You can also take a look at Smyth Forged, contribute your first agent there. We have the tutorials on Smyth Academy, so please, you can look there. Bookmark the docs. So as you're going through this, if you need more information, all of these things can be gotten to from SmythOS.com, our landing page. They're across the top there. Please say hi in Discord, or if you've got support questions that you need, you can always do that. And this recording, along with several others of our past agents in action and other tutorials and things like that, can also be found on our YouTube channel. And as always, we have community meetings once a month right now. We might go to 2 after the first of the year. We just had our November 1 last week, and this week, or the next meeting will be on 2 December. So please get involved. Please take a look. Please ask questions. I don't see any new questions that have been asked lately. I think we covered the ones that came in, Alaa-eddine, while you were presenting. So with that, we'll say have a great day. Thanks for joining. Whether you're joining live, whether you're going to be watching the recording later, we appreciate you. We appreciate you being part of our community. And if you're new to the community, we want to see you. We want to say hi, and we want to interact with you. So don't be shy. If you come across something that isn't quite working the way you think it should work, or you're having trouble with it, please open an issue in the respective repo on GitHub, so we can Alaa-eddine and his team can address it, or you can ask questions on Discord as well. Alaa-eddine, again, thank you for the presentation. As always, it's great to learn from you and your team. Do you have anything else to add before we say goodbye?
Oh, yeah. Well, nothing more. Just thank you for everyone who is attending in Zoom and YouTube. And yeah, you are always welcome to ask questions, even outside of the webinars. Don't hesitate. Don't be shy. There is no dumb questions. And we trying to cover everything that our community asks for. So yeah, happy to see you again in next webinars.
Bye, everyone, and we'll see you next week. Actually, we'll see you tomorrow with Airtable plus SmythOS, and it'll be at a different time. But if you got invited to this Agents in Action, you're definitely going to see the one for tomorrow.